Welcome everyone to session 2 of this IVCO conference this year. This session is Voices from the Field, and my name is Messier. I'm the program director at Crossroads International, so I have the pleasure to moderate that session. So that session is about, as the title says, Voices from the Field, and you will hear from your peers and volunteers working directly in communities in different countries in the field, and you will understand their perspective. It will profile a collection of case studies and presentations on good practices about diversity, of volunteer identities, models, and assumptions about inclusive volunteering. So I'd like to introduce the first speaker. It's Simone Galimberti, and Simone is the co-founder of Engage. So it's an NGO involved in Nepal. So Simone, it's over to you for your presentation.
Well, good morning, good afternoon from Kathmandu. Thank you, Christine, and thank you to all the team at ActionAid Linus. So I'm gonna first have a short of sharing of our work. So it's more gonna be like a speech, and then at the end, I'm gonna show some pictures, all right? So basically at Engage, we are in the business of social inclusion. And so if you believe in social inclusion, you believe in partnership. Yes, partnerships are really, really crucial. And at the end of the day, we are talking about building, creating new alliances. And talking about partnership, alliances, it's all about relationship building. So at Engage, basically, we kind of come up with an approach that try to leverage two major enablers of this relationship building process. On the one hand, we have volunteerism, while on the other one, we have sport. Now, let's start with volunteerism. So volunteerism, as we know, for us, it's an equalizer, in the sense that when we are on the ground, everybody's the same. So socioeconomic differences get erased. The focus is on the common good. So we are all equal. And this is particularly important in a context marked by deep inequalities, underpinned by inequities, like Nepal, but also in many other places. So volunteerism as an equalizer. Then sport. Well, sport, we know that it's getting stronger as an approach to development. So we call it sport for peace and development. And for us, sport is basically a unifier, bring people together. So let's go back to the idea of relationship building. So basically, we try to leverage these two dimensions, these two enablers, to bring or to facilitate social change. Now, specifically, we have chosen the area of disability and social inclusion. Now, why? Why are we into this specific sector? Because on average, a person with disability in a context like Nepal are much more at disadvantage. They are marginalized and they lack basically opportunities. This is because of different reasons, social, cultural, religious, in part. It's basically a reflection of a power structure of the society that was based, and to some extent is still based, to a caste system. That basically put the person living with disability right at the bottom. It's very complex, and I don't want to generalize, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to portray a completely bleak or gloomy picture. In the last few years, there have been huge progress, especially from the legal point of view, in terms of inclusion and accessibility. And also, you know, I don't want to draw a very negative picture, because there are examples of amazing activists within the community of person living with disability. There are really bright stars, you know, and there is even one organization run by two brothers, the Adhikari brothers, that are friends of us who are fantastic. They are both visually impaired and they are really pushing, advocating. And like them, there are others who are really affirming their agency and their willingness to assert their rights. But say that, generally speaking, generalizing, if you are a youth, if you are living with disability, or perhaps if you are a woman living with disability, or if you are a Dalit, like low caste, living with disability, you face more challenges, more obstacles, because the society pretty much is not inclusive, is not even accessible from the point of view of, you know, accessibility, physical accessibility. So youth with disability have to face so many challenges. Now, from this daily challenge, struggle, basically they end up developing some strength, resilience, for example, willpower. So now at Engage, what we are trying to do is try to highlight through sport and volunteering these strengths, this positive aspect emerging from the daily struggle of our friends living with disability. And this is how we try to build partnership. And I'm going to talk about our flagship program called the Engage Sport Coach. Basically, we are targeting youth, local youth, who never volunteered before, but have something common. They love sport. And there is no any prerequisite. Just, you know, be willing to, you know, excel at doing something. And this is a great volunteering program because it's really volunteerism at its best form, in the sense that it's unpaid, it's part-time, so it reflects a way of living rather than, you know, getting in a sort of job kind of volunteering. So it's once in a week, so very doable. And basically it's a learning experience. And this aspect of the learning experience is so fundamental because it's really based on the reciprocity. So basically, we identify youth from 17, 18 above who love sport, as I said, and we turn them into sport coaches. So basically, sport is a big buy-in because it's what drew them to the program. And we turn them into technical sport coaches. For example, we are if they love basketball or cricket or football, we turn them into wheelchair basketball coaches, into deaf football coaches, or blind cricket coaches. So this is one dimension of what they get from us. Two, we help them becoming more responsible citizens, engaged citizens that care. Third, we try our best to make them champion of the disability rights, of the social inclusion. And from their perspective, number one, they're attracted because, you know, they have fun, because they do sport and they have an opportunity to really enhance their skills, because most of them never ever coached before. And second, from their perspective, they basically learn. That's what I was talking about before, reciprocity, because it's not really a top-down coaching. You do this and you do that. Of course, that part is there, but it's really about a reciprocal learning where the coaches are truly inspired by their teammates. So basically, we build a relationship. We try to forge friendship among them. So we try to, torn down the walls of isolation and vulnerability. And so we provide each of them, after selection, 60-hour training. The trainings are about social inclusion, about volunteerism. It's about leadership, because this is, at the end of the day, is also a personal leadership experience. And then, of course, also technical training for them to do the job of coach. Now, this is part of our mission, our mission to create a more inclusive society, enabling, relationship. Even though, there is also another dimension of self-empowerment. So the first component is really building, you know, a more inclusive society through sport and volunteering. And then, you know, we try to work more on, you know, on the self-empowerment process of the youth with disability. And I'm going to come in there in 1 minute. Now, in our work, our mission allows also us to focus on the quality of the game. So it's a social mission, but also the competitive dimension is very, very important. So, for example, you know, all our coaches in the wheelchair basketball have to undertake a online license system that just basically tell us that they are prepared enough, good enough to be on the court. And you know, this competitive aspect is very important because excellence, we want also to achieve excellence. Excellence can attract people interest. And so attracting people interest, we manage to project disability as, you know, a power where we're going to have basically adaptive athletes that can excel and do well in the court. So that's why we've been, you know, besides our, you know, regular training, we have been trying to organize, you know, big competition. We've been organizing for 3 times the Turkish Airlines Engagement Power League, that perhaps is the biggest event in Asia, apart those, you know, involving the national teams. But it's basically a national event where there are, you know, more than 12 teams from all the country, and we also do a lot of awareness programs. So it's not just going, you know, on the court. It's also about bringing the players to meet the students. So in the last edition, 2 years ago, we managed to reach out more than 1,500 students, you know, going school by school with the teams to talk and also to play, and also have the kids in the school try to play wheelchair basketball. And then more recently, with the COVID, we've been partnering with the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and basically there are also very good coaches from Canada, friend of us who are helping on this. And basically, we've been organized last year a fit and healthy no matter what. That it was a series of programs trying to engage people from the point of view of fitness and well-being and leadership. And this year, right now, we are conducting a virtual championship, wheelchair basketball. So it's a very new to us, and it's something that, you know, it's very innovative. It's not really about gaming, but it's more about drill, exercise, and quiz and stuff like that. Now, coming to the end, you know, I talk about this, our social mission, enabling an inclusive society to support volunteering, but also help the process of self-empowerment. Because honestly, you know, sport itself is not enough. So we try to basically work on one-to-one. This is very resource-intensive and difficult work. Try to forge pathway for self-development, helping youth with disability to basically connect with opportunity. So we are basically connectors. It means that we might help them find a job, we might help them prepare a curriculum, we might help them get abroad for a training, we might help them, you know, prepare for interview and stuff like that. It's something, it's kind of difficult, something that we have been doing a few times because it's very intensive and also high risk kind of process, because the job market and the education system, they are not inclusive. But we try to, you know, come up with, you know, sort of plan to support them on regular basis based on their needs. So this is what we're trying. There've been a lot of challenges because, as you know, volunteering is not really sellable, especially in the disability sector. That is not at all sellable in the development sector. So funding has been a big challenge, but nevertheless, we've been trying to do our best. So I want to conclude showing you some picture. I think here, so these are just picture of you know, our coaches that are during the capacity building training, right? Very intensive, very serious, once in a week, every Saturday, half day. This is one of our coaches, Bina, you know, on the court. This is BJ, one of our best coaches, talking, interacting with his own team. This is the graduation ceremony that we do every year. We see Kalpana, my wife, the founder of Engage. We give a kind of small certificate to our coaches, and this is about the league. This is one of the athletes, Tina, one of the best athletes, wheelchair basketball in Nepal. This is another shot from the competition. These are the volunteers that we've been employing during the league. Around 40 volunteers taking care of all the logistics. Quite crazy job. So this is about deaf football. So we try to provide our volunteers some basic, sign language training. This is one of our coaches, trying to learn about the sign language. This is about the team we've been working with, all girls who are deaf. And this is about the cricket, blind cricket. And this is basically the program we ran last year with ICRC about, fit and healthy no matter what. And this one is what we are right now running about the virtual wheelchair basketball championship, again with ICRC. So I think it's all from my side. Thank you so much.
So Simone, thank you so much for your presentation, for sharing with us your work. It's such a great model of inclusive empowerment and engagement, really. So very inspiring.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So now I have the pleasure to introduce the second speaker. Her name is Christine Ogola. She's the program assistant at Resilient Youth and Livelihood Department at VSO. So Christine.
Thank you, Christine. My name is Christine Ogola. I am a climate change adaptation specialist at VSO Kenya. And I'm going to share about voices from the field from VSO Kenya. At VSO, it's an international development organization that fights poverty through the lasting power of volunteering. At VSO, we make sure everyone gets the skills they need to live a fulfilled and dignified life. It delivers high impact development projects in youth, women empowerment, enterprise development, inclusive education, and social accountability. At VSO Kenya, we focus on strengthening the government and community structures, building the capacity of youth, women, girls, boys, and persons with disabilities to increase the accessibility of communities to quality, inclusive education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship skills, and other social services. VSO Kenya also supports volunteers, both international and national volunteers on projects around Kenya and the world. So we're going to look at volunteering for development, which is a model that VSO uses to place the needs of our primary actors at the heart of the development model. It builds on three different aspects. We have the people first principle, which ensures that primary actors are an integral to the design, planning, implementation, and monitoring projects. We have the core approaches. The primary actors have the confidence and capacity to bring about change in their lives. That is social inclusion for the marginalized groups, ensuring that no one is left behind, and gender, and also resilience, just giving the primary actors a way to be able to absorb shock and withstand any dangers and any risk they're facing. And social accountability, which is a way of holding the persons into power into account and ensuring that projects are delivered effectively and sustainably in their communities. V4D also builds on relational volunteering approach, which is how volunteers add value to a significant development in their communities. V4D as an agent of change. By putting primary actors at the center of their own development, V4D has promoted inclusive community-led interventions by influencing decision makers mostly, and this we can see instances on where we have inclusive grassroots governance system. We have our return volunteers who are in the community and are actively engaging and participating on public participations model in their counties in Kenya in our efforts to ensure effective engagement of young people, to ensure that the voices of young people are not only heard, but do count massively towards sustainable development. It also, there's an instance where we have our return volunteers contributing to county youth policy development and budget formulation in counties like Machakos, where the return volunteers for VSO have done research, have done public participation in forums. I've held dialogues with the county and national government persons to be able to contribute and participate in the policy development and budget formulation. And also counties like Nairobi, Kilifi, and Bungoma County, where return volunteers are doing much more and are contributing and rallying the youth to be able to inspire them to take part in policy development. We have seen national volunteers and returned volunteers participating in the national volunteering policy, which with the support of VSO, it's still at the bill level, and it's going on well. So far, so good. We have VSO contributing to influencing climate change adaptation policy spaces, where our VSO young champions who are food system champions are taking part in the food systems dialogues, and at different levels to they converse with other stakeholders on different support needs and commitments in promoting sustainable food systems. And through this, the return volunteers gain the ability and authority to implement change, make informed decisions, and make greater impact in their lives other than people, in their lives, the other people, and the society as a whole. We're going to look at youth engagement and community impact, where VSO massively integrates volunteering for sustainable approaches to development. They bring, the volunteers bring a mix of perspective, expertise, and ideas from diverse backgrounds and experiences. And VSO encourages these volunteers to be active global citizens during and after their placement. That's supported, it has worked in supporting and capacity development of Youth for Sustainable Development Network, which consists of 13 community-based organizations in 13 counties in Kenya. And these community-based organizations, 90% of its members are VSO return volunteers. So we see VSO actively inspiring volunteers to be active citizens even after their placement as volunteers. The YSD network, with close support from VSO Kenya and other stakeholders, implement programs in health, livelihoods, climate action, and good governance to build community resilience. These networks, these youth networks have been actively involved in the COVID-19 response to address the impacts of the pandemic on social economic well-being. They have been able to rally community members to be change ambassadors and be able to inspire and motivate and create awareness to the community on better ways of mitigating COVID-19. The YSD networks have been actively involved in the food systems dialogue, conducting research, collecting community voices on food systems, and influencing policies at both national and global levels, such as the COP26 that is upcoming, and the food system that was held the other day on 23rd of September. We get to see a case study on where the youth have been actively participating in policy development and government systems in terms of being in the food systems dialogue. IVCO Kenya has supported approximately 26 youth who are part of the Youth for Sustainable Development Network, and most of them are returned volunteers who engage with their communities on issues related to food security in order to feed into the ongoing food systems summit that's still going on, because drought and famine have been a massive challenge here in Kenya and all around the world. The youth engage the farmers, the food industries, food vendors, nutritionists, public health officers, the county governments, private sector, and consumers through diverse methods such as social media engagement and awareness creation. We have face-to-face meetings and forums. We have radio discussions as well, roundtable discussions, phone interviews, to be able to speak to them and get to know where the issue is and how we can work together as a collective entity to be able to have a sustainable food system. In total, the youth-driven dialogues took place across 13 counties, including Isiolo, Laikipia, Kajiado, Taita Taveta, Mombasa, Kilifi, Nairobi, Kisumu, Machakos, Makueni, and Bungoma, and in over 56 youth dialogues organized by the VSO youth volunteers. The small-scale farmers, women, persons with disabilities, they highlighted the issues in agricultural sector that actually needed to be acted upon. And the same was presented to the National Secretariat on the Food Systems Summit to be part of the national policy paper, which is a good way to start the fight against hunger and contribute to the SDG on zero hunger. So to scale up the good practices, the youth are calling for the government to unleash potential of agroecology by several ways. One is to be able to share information and knowledge through public campaigns, institutional approaches, for instance, get skill development on climate and resilience, or rather agroecological food systems, nutrition, sustainable food production. We have climate smart agriculture, be integrated into the curricula in the education system, such as the 4K clubs that were there a while back in Kenya in the school system. And also the youth called for the government to ensure greater public investment in agroecology and support for small holder farmers, including in access to finance to support agroecology related activities. The youth also called out for the government to be able to ensure that programs and interventions strengthen the aspects of gender and disability inclusion and participation, to be able to have an inclusive policy that caters for all and ensures that no one is left behind, and are able to integrate even the marginalized persons to be able to be part of the development in their community. The youth also called upon the focus on young, small-scale farmers for the government and relevant stakeholders to support the small-scale farmers and create employment for youth, that the government needs to shift its investment towards the small-scale farmers, solving food safety issues associated with chemical use, large-scale unemployment created for youth, and the decrease in the impact of climate change. And through building suitable agricultural practices associated with infrastructure around youth small-scale farmers for production in the processing industry, the marketing of their produce, so that we are able to create employment for young small-scale farmers and also decrease the impact of climate change. VSO Kenya recognizes the urgency in addressing the challenges identified through community and national dialogues to promote the unhindered access of safe, quality, and nutritious food for everyone, especially the girls, women, the youth, and the persons with disability in rural and fragile areas. So VSO Kenya committed itself to contribute to the pathways for climate change and environment by training community members on climate change mitigation and adaptation, including conservation and ecosystem restoration. VSO Kenya also committed itself to keep involving the returned volunteers, community youth volunteers, and other youth in the community to develop their skills on climate resilience, agroecological food systems through the adoption of agroecology and demand creation for agroecology products, and ensure that effective food waste management at household level is sustainable. VSO also committed to ensuring full participation of the marginalized persons, the youth, the women, the persons with disability in the food systems through their continued inclusion and access to resources like capital, land, and ensure that the policies are effective for sustainable food systems. And through this, VSO has been able to involve and engage most of the returned volunteers to ensuring that their skills are being developed even after their placement, during and after their placement, thus they become active citizens in our society and work towards developing a significant change in our communities. And as a parting shot, I would like to leave you with this. When youth are empowered, they empower the masses. That's paving way for a better tomorrow, which is something you can take home in terms of trying to think of sustainable ways to empower your youth. And it's a trickle down to empower the masses, and we have a sustainable development as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your presentation. So now I would like to introduce the third speaker of this session. Her name is Ricar Pascoela. She is the coordinator of Working Women's Center at Timor-Leste.
Thank you, Christine. Voice from the field volunteering in Timor-Leste. Since 2011, the Working Women's Center Timor-Leste, or WWCTL, has worked to empower domestic workers nationwide. Domestic workers are particularly vulnerable because they have no legal protection and they are an undervalued profession. WWCTL strategy combines vocational and life skill education with advocacy and organizing. We aim to empower domestic workers in the workplace and beyond, so that domestic workers can be recognized as workers with access to decent work and the right to legal protection. In 2017, we got a volunteer to Australian Volunteers Program. Bree Ahrens was on an 18-month assignment as an advocacy and communication mentor. Her contract was then extended to 24 months. We want to recruit a volunteer because we recognize that our staff had limited capacity in advocacy and communication. We knew that our work was important, but found it difficult to communicate this to the media, to the government, and to the public. We want to get support in working what steps need to be taken to achieve our goal. Bree contributions has been invaluable. She helped us to improve our communication skills, motivated us to reach and develop our organization objective and targets for our campaigns, develop our slogan and key message, and with her help, we have learned to be a solid team. And also, we managed to secure a small grant that support community outreach in Armera. With volunteer presence, we have learned how to create our advocacy strategy and engage in individual and public advocacy through social media, consultation group, and campaigning. To this end, we have succeeded in mobilizing domestic workers in campaign, facilitating working contract with employers, and lobbying the Ministry of Labor to agree to a new regulation on domestic workers, which we expect to be passed in 2021, this year. Of course, it's not easy to achieve this objective as an organization with a limited budget. We had many experiences with our volunteer facing these challenges together. One example is when we decided to do a research project. This was a very important project for us. For the first time, we would have data about the working condition that domestic workers experience in Timor-Leste. We traveled to rural areas, so we had to use public transportation or bus to our destination, which is far from the city of Dili. From Dili, we took the bus at 7 a.m., but the bus circled the city of Dili until 10 a.m. before starting the actual journey. We realized that this must be a very disappointing for our volunteer. But we couldn't stop our journey, and we arrived at our destination at 1 a.m. night. In total, we spent 17 hours on our bus. We even encountered dangerous and slippery roads because of the rainy seasons. This forced all passengers to get off and take a little walk to wait for the bus at the top of the hill. And one other thing that is unforgettable is when it comes to food. Because she's vegan, we have to find a place to eat that has vegetable to suit all of our appetites. When we arrive in rural areas to do our research, we realized that public transportation was limited, which forced us to walk very, very long distance every day to conduct door-to-door interviews. Sometimes we worried that this activity was too much for her, but we didn't get the slightest complaint from her, so this made us more excited. Our experience together made us stronger, and as a result, before every activity we will do, we will always discuss openly together first before we implement it in the field. Smooth communication, openness, and listening to each other made us even more a great team in the field so that all of our activities can be realized. Why was our experience of volunteering a positive one? I can identify several factors that make our volunteering experience effective. Our volunteer had existing language skills in Indonesian and was able to learn Tetun with support of the Australian Volunteers Program. The volunteer contract was for long period, 24 months, which allowed us to implement the skills we learned together with the volunteers, and it made the skill more sustainable. And finally, strong support for the volunteer from the Australian volunteer programs, which helped her adjust to life in Timor-Leste. We know that the pandemic has impacted global volunteering, and we have been lucky to recruit a remote volunteer also through the Australian volunteer programs. We are very grateful for this opportunity, but we can also see the benefit of having a volunteer come to us in Timor-Leste. The challenges of remote volunteering include the lack of in-person contact. It makes it harder for us to work together and makes it hard for the volunteer to understand the local context of our activities. It is also means that the volunteer doesn't have the opportunity to learn our local language. This makes communication difficult. But despite this challenge, our remote volunteer has really helped us. Working together on media training for domestic workers as one example. We have made the most of our experience having volunteers and continue to implement the program and plans we designed together. We hope that after the pandemic, we can once again host an in-country volunteer to further strengthen our work for women workers in Timor-Leste. Thanks, the Australian volunteer programs, and we hope we have a long partnership.
Thank you very much, Ricar, for your presentation. And now I'd like to introduce the two last speakers. They are going to present together. So we have Manisha Dhakal. She is the Executive Director at Blue Diamond Society, and Seema Khah. She's the chairperson at the Nepal Muslim Women's Welfare Society, which is a partner organization of CECI. This CECI is a Canadian organization for the Volunteer Cooperation Program in Nepal.
Namaste, this is Surya Lakshmi Bajracharya. I'm working as a Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Specialist in CECI, Center for International Studies and Cooperation. And our organization, CECI, is a Canadian non-profit organization working since 1958 with the mission of combating poverty and exclusion. CECI in Nepal is working since 1989 and is implementing various projects and volunteer programs over 30 years. We provided technical support and capacity building to government as well as our partner organization, non-government organization through the projects and the volunteer cooperation program, mainly with the two program priorities. One is in the women's economic empowerment and rights, and another is the women actor as a resilience and climate change. So in this conference, our two of our partners, Blue Diamond Society and the Nepal Muslim Women Welfare Society, they are presenting here. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Namaste, this is Seema Khan from Nepal, Chair of Nepal Muslim Women Welfare Society. This organization is a non-profit organization established in 2006 with the purpose of raising voices for Muslim women having network in 5 provinces and in 20 districts. Muslims are one of a very marginalized community in Nepal under the poverty level and having low literacy rate. The rate of male is 63% and female rate is only 26%. What made me to establish this organization is a discrimination which I faced in my family. Even in my family, my father was in a very big post of the government, but because of his patriarchy mindset, he never allowed me to go to the school and continue my study. So I studied up to grade 8 only. But when I see that my brother used to go to the school, so I also wanted to go to the school, but he didn't allow me. So I had that ego and that feeling. So after my marriage, I studied. I asked my husband, and he allowed me to go to the school and continue my studies. So I complete my class 10. And I went to the college and did my graduation also. So this discrimination encouraged me to do something for Muslim women, as all Muslim women are also facing this type of problems. So, and one thing I realized that in the name of religion, Muslim women are being cheated from their community because there are already many rights, are their educational rights, and this property rights was also there. So I thought I have to do something for them. So I established this organization, and we work with many donors, so like UNDP, European Union, Global Fund for Women, Women's Fund Asia, and in 2020 we become partner with CECI. And under the CECI-VCP program, like that, volunteer cooperation program supported us, and they provided us a volunteer, and she supported us to develop our policies and develop proposal writing guideline, and our staff got training with her, and they started writing proposals, and we reviewed our policies also. And during the time of COVID-19, when everywhere it was locked, at that time, this volunteer cooperation program supported Muslim women with a training that women used to work sitting from home, and they used to make Khah at home. It is a part of a makeup, cosmetics. So it had been stopped because of COVID-19. And then CECI provided them the training, and also they provided the raw material also. Then women learned a lot with them, and they able to restart their work, and they became capable to work again from home and start earning money from home. So it was a very very big support from CECI, which Muslim women got. And another thing is that CECI also know that the situation of Muslim women and situation of marginalized group, and how women are suffering from home, from family members, and though they want to do many things, but they cannot do so. We are very much thankful to CECI and volunteer cooperation program. They supported Muslim women, and they supported a lot them, and they made them confidence. So we are thankful to CECI for this, and they are continuously working, and the support we got for our office also is a very big support. For that also we are thankful to CECI, and now we are still partner of CECI, and we are working with them. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sophia.
Hi and namaste everyone. My name is Manisha Dhakal. I'm transgender activist working with Blue Diamond Society Nepal. I'm one of the founder member of Asia-Pacific Transgender Network, and I'm also former co-chair of Lgbtiq. This stands for International Lesbian and Gay Association. I'm also the president of Federation of Sexual and Gender Minorities of Nepal. Blue Diamond Society is Nepal's pioneer non-government organization led and driven by LGBTIQ plus a community with a mission to improve the sexual and reproductive health, human rights, and well-being of LGBTIQ plus a people in Nepal, which was established in 2001. I'm very happy to represent my organization here today to share some of the results of joint collaborative effort of BDS Volunteer Cooperation Program through CECI. In my country, working on LGBTIQ plus A rights is not a problem. Our constitution has included rights of sexual and gender minorities already, and we have several landmark verdicts from the Supreme Court in favor of LGBTIQ plus A people. But we face the challenges of weak implementation of constitutional mandate and Supreme Court decisions and universal periodic review recommendation from our government. As I mentioned that BDS is a partner of Volunteer Cooperation Program through CECI. From this VCP program, we received 2 volunteers so far. We always remember our volunteer Maxine, who helped us to update our website. Our website was not updated and it was not strong before. She worked on it and make it more attractive, informative, and which helped us to create our visibility through the technology. It's not only the creation and update of website, but we learn about the importance of visibility through technology from her. I'd like to remember Nikki, who is another volunteer who worked for us virtually. She supported us on write-up of our organization, country context, and situation of LGBTIQ plus A people. While we are writing any concept note proposal, we are using this write-up developed by Nikki. I'd like to thank from my bottom of heart to Maxine and Nikki. Now I'd like to talk about pandemic situation. Many of our community members has faced mental health challenges, lost their job, and their livelihood has been damaged. During the lockdown in Nepal, we supported our community member for their livelihood. We provided makeup training, homemade pickle training, computer class, and driving training to our community member. We provided makeup training for the well-known transgender makeup artist. She faced financial crisis because of the shutdown of her makeup studio. This training opportunity helped her somewhat extend for her livelihood, and in other hand, our community developed their skill on makeup from her. Some already started work as a freelancer makeup artist. Trans men who got the driving training now have license of driving. Some community members started to sell pickles after having the training. In addition, computer classes training help us, our community, to develop their skill to work on computer. We also conducted 2 virtual advocacy and awareness events on faith and LGBTIQ plus A and employment and census issues. We invited Buddhist monk Bhikshu Kashyap, and he talked about the LGBTIQ plus and the religion. In other hand, we have raised the issues of inclusion of LGBTIQ plus people in the census, which is happening now. Now our community people and our community-based organization learn the importance of the census and are creating awareness for the inclusion of LGBTIQ plus people in the census. While working with CECI, we have opportunity to share the knowledge on SOGI issues to CECI staff and their partners. One good example is CECI started to give the opportunity for the LGBTIQ plus people in their vacancy announcement. Now they write LGBTIQ people are encouraged to apply, and they have revisited their HR policy to include the community people. It is just because of our coordination and training session to the CECI staff. Thank you very much, CECI, for supporting through the great volunteers and collaborative project in Nepal for support the LGBTIQ plus A community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, both Manisha and Seema. So welcome everyone to the live segment of session 2A, Voices from the Field. My name is Messier. I'm the program director at Crossroads International. I would like to invite our 5 speakers to also open their cameras and microphone to join live the session. So Manisha is with us. So wait for the others. So in the meantime, I will ask or tell the audience, our auditors, to prepare their questions to our panelists. So you can write your questions in the Q&A chat box, or you can join on stage by pressing the button Share Video and Audience, and you can ask by yourself your question live to any of the speakers. So we heard from the 5 speakers about challenges that face different marginalized groups in Nepal, Kenya, and Timor-Leste, and how their organizations work for the rights and inclusion of people with disabilities, of young people, domestic workers, Muslim women, and LGBTQI+ communities. Our panelists told us the role that volunteer mobilization and engagement play in creating inclusive opportunities and enabling environment for these groups experiencing discrimination. So, Christine is here, Seema, Ricar, Manisha. So maybe we can go with first question here. For Christine Ogola, how does the Volunteer for Development approach of VSO ensure inclusion for all in its programs?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please, Christine.
Yeah.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. How does the V4D approach ensure inclusion for all in its programs? Yeah. V4D puts primary actors at the center of their own development, where it promotes inclusive, community-led interventions through inclusion, most especially the marginalized groups. These are women, youth, and persons with disability. So we ensure that youth, persons with disability are included, be it the or the primary actors, through ensuring that the systems are in place to support them. If there are trainings in the community, we make sure that we have the interpreters on board to be able to assist the deaf persons. We make sure that we go to a place where it's accessible to everyone, and just to ensure social inclusion, and also train and advocate for inclusion for all, and gender inclusivity in the community, and just try to build capacity in terms of them building their resilience and getting the knowledge of, their rights and responsibilities and what they can offer to the community as well. So through that, it drives everything that we do, since we ensure the social inclusion acts as a core approach in all the thematic areas to be able to so that we get to build inclusivity in all our projects and our activities. So through this, it builds confidence, it builds capacity to bring up lives of the primary actors.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. I have a question for Seema. So Seema, here's the question.
Okay.
So we're sure that it's difficult to answer briefly, but yeah. So how did you first start the women's group? Was there a key strategy or key moment when you started that group? your group?
Yes, yes, it was a constitution writing process at that time when I established our organization. So our nation, Nepal, was looking for marginalized women groups also at that time. So I established this organization, and we made a strategy, and we made many groups of women, but at the grassroots level, not in central level. Our all groups are in grassroots levels, remote areas where Muslims are highly populated. So we prepared women groups, and we got support from donor agencies, and we trained them, and we told them how to give vote, and what is the importance of vote, and what is the leadership, and what is leadership is necessary for women. A woman also have to become a leader, because leadership is very important, and representation in national level in government is another thing. It is also very important. Without accessing in the government level, we can't show our presence, and we can't get our rights. So we create many leaders from the grassroots levels. In first constitution writing process for assembly, we prepared many women, and many women were participated in that at that time also, and we also taught them they have to enter in political parties, because politics is a power which everyone has to have. That is very important. So one thing is education, and another thing is representation in political level. Political participation is very necessary. So women understand, and it was the time of inclusion. So environment was also supported them. So many women got access in political levels and in the constitution assembly, and they raised their voices in constitution writing process. So it was very much helpful for to raise their voices and to do something for their communities. And we added our rights in our constitution. So now the constitution of Nepal is very useful and very good constitution we have. We are proud of our constitution, and it is women supporting, and there is a provision of 33 women are must to be in everything. The representation of 33% women is must in our organization, in our constitution, sorry, in our constitution. So everywhere women are 33% women are necessary, and on the basis of inclusion. So now we can see Muslim women also in local government and in national level also.
Fantastic. Bravo for your work and the success. So maybe a question for Ricar. Someone is asking and interested to hear how you integrate international volunteers into your work. So you give us the example of this Australian volunteer when you presented. So how did you integrate that? Can you develop more in the integration of that volunteer into your work?
So, yes. So, first of all, we always discuss together with our volunteer for any kind of activity that we want to implement. Means that any decision that I will take in the name of the as a work team before we implement the activity, it means that the volunteer also join or take a part inside the discussion, separating any rules that she or he will take between us. That's the guarantee that our activity, even the campaigns or door-to-door activity, can be implemented very well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ricar. A question for Manisha. So Manisha, I see you're with us. So you'll be able to open your mic.
Yeah,
very good. So here's a question for you. So what is more precisely the situation of LGBTIQ community in Nepal? at the social and legal level?
Okay, so these things, you know, the social legal things of the LGBTIQ need to learn from our volunteer also and the other our partners also. Nepal, you know, the never criminalize the homosexuality, as we don't have the section 377 like other our neighboring country have that criminalize the section LGBTIQ rights, you know, and the Nepal already addresses the LGBTI rights in the constitution, in the Article 12, right to citizenship, and Article 18, right to equality, and Article 42, right to social justice. And there were several, you know, the Supreme Court decisions on marriage equality, citizenship rights for the transgender people, and the UPR recommendation. And Nepal become the core group, United Nations core group member, and Nepal support the independent expert and the Human Rights Council that deals with the sexual orientation and gender identity. So at the policy level, you know, there is a good initiative in the policy level, but the implementation part is very weak. The constitutional mandate for the rights of LGBTIQ people are not implemented, you know, properly. And now the people, LGBTIQ people, are coming out, and there are more than 40 LGBTIQ organizations working in Nepal, and working with the government, working with the police, working with the different stakeholders, raising the voice of LGBTIQ people is not a problem. But the main problem is, you know, the proper implementation of the Supreme Court decisions and the constitutional mandate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farouche. So very interesting, and bravo for your work, really. Maybe a question here for Christine. Someone is asking how the global standard for volunteering for development are integrated into your work, the work you do as VSO. Could you answer that question? Yeah, so someone is asking if you are integrating the global standards for volunteering into your work.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's a trickle down, you know. So at VSO we live in a youth empowered society, and not just from the country level, it's from, you know, the global level. And you know, we believe that volunteers bring in a mix of perspective, expertise, and ideas from a wealth of different countries, experiences. So yeah, we have that global way of looking how to implement projects, but then when it's down to country level, make it to, you know, the different perspectives and the different each country is focusing on. So it's definitely related. Question.
Yes, no, absolutely. Thank you. I put you on the spot. Yeah. Maybe another question for Ricar. Yes, here's a question. Do you have any experience with local volunteers from Timor-Leste, and how this is differing from international volunteers?
Okay, so we never have any local volunteers in here. So international volunteer is something new for us. And we appreciate that from this some person that internationally means that we learn something that internationally too. So this is like we work by learning. So everything that we implement is based on our pathway to achieve our goals with our organization. So international volunteering teaching us new method, strengthen our advocacy, how we communicate with the community. Even we knew that she might be confused with our local language, but this person is really dedicate herself, he or herself, with the local community in here. They quick learning something new, even the tradition, even the local context in here, they can be easy being adapted with it. And so do I. So do we in here. Also, we try to take everything, means that the smart that she transferred to us means that, okay, we need to take, or we need to transfer the smart thing that she's willing to share with us. That's the great point for us from the international volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricar. I would take the last question, and it's addressed to any of you. So it's about remote volunteering. It's something you touch, actually, Ricar, and the challenges working with remote volunteers. So is there any suggestions about how this volunteering model can be strengthened? It's Ricar, anybody else? I don't know, Christine, if you have with VSO an experience with remote volunteers. Or it could be Manisha or Seema, if there's any experience with remote volunteering.
Thank you. I suggest, for the physical volunteer and the remote volunteer, I encourage volunteer from the minorities community would be the great idea. For example, volunteer from the LGBTIQ community and volunteer from the disabled community. And when we talk about the gender issues, we need to break the gender binary lens. Either the remote volunteer or the physical volunteer, we need to be the clear on the inclusiveness for the all minorities, either for the volunteer or for the volunteer receiving organization. They need to build the policy, inclusive policy for the minorities people. And for the remote volunteer, we need to give the time for them to understand better of the situation, for the situation of the the minorities people and about our organization. And for the time constraints is also one of the the limitation for us. The volunteer live in the another side of the wall, and we are in the another side of the wall. There is the the some the time zone constraint there, so we need to mitigate that kind of challenges for us. And then much the if the physical volunteer who physically appear in the organization, they interact the people regularly, they can learn. But people who are working remotely, they don't have that much the opportunity. So we need to invest some time to the aware of our situation, our organization situation, to the remote volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Well, we come to a close. I want to thank you all, Ricar, Manisha, Seema, Christine. It's been a pleasure to be in touch a bit before and now. And I want also to thank Simone, who also presented as the first panelist, but he couldn't be with us for the live segment. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, all the audience.
Thank
also.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.